Good morning, eighth grade. I am coming to you from Friday. So this won't go out until, Monday, um, the 11th. But today is the 8th. I'm doing these ahead of time. I apologize for the lack of section 1 video. Honestly, I just got behind because we're starting the Constitution in 7th grade, and you remember what that's like. So I didn't have time to make a video for them and a video for you in my one prep hour. So I got behind one section, so I'm trying to get ahead now to make sure we don't have to go without next week. I don't. I'm not going to go on a long time about a lot of what we're talking about here, um, but I do want to mention. I have the 7th grade notes up. I'm changing the notes. I had the wrong one up. Sorry. I do want to mention that. A few things. You do need to get these notes down again. I will collect them at the end of the 9 weeks, of course, just like I did in the first 9 weeks. In the second 9 weeks, some of you, most of you did a good job and turned those in. Some of you didn't bring any of those at all, and you got a 0, and very harmful to your grade. Okay, so you do need to be writing these notes down. You do need to. We always say LOL in social studies: legible, organized, and labeled. I need to be able to read them. Obviously, my handwriting is not great. So as long as you can make it as good as mine, you're going to be okay. Handwriting is not really a big problem for anybody here. Organized, you need to keep them in order. You need to have 7-1 at the beginning of the notebook, then 7-2, 7-3, 7-4, 6, 8-1, 8-2, 8. You get the idea, okay? And so on, and labeled. So you need to have Chapter 7, Section 2, at least at the top of a new page. Don't just smush it in there at the end of Section 1. Start an entire new page, okay? Not for each slide or anything like that, just for each new section. All right? Also, you need to do this, and you do need to watch the video, and you do need to answer the Google form to be counted as present in school. I have gone over this dozens of times on dozens of videos already by this point, and most of you are doing fine. Some of you are just not doing this at all. And a lot of you, I think, have the wrong idea about what remote school is. You're still supposed to be spending, one class period in social studies for the people that are here is 45 minutes. And so that is what should be expected of you to do remote school. And, the idea that you can't sit down, to copy the notes down and watch a 15 to 25-minute video, that's not how it works. And so these are things that you have to do. So now I understand that, copying the notes and watching the video might not take you 45 minutes. But the idea that it's eating up too much of your time, that's not how it works. This is supposed to be a replacement for school. And so you should be spending a normal class period worth of school of time on these subjects. That's just how it is. So make sure you fill out the Google form that I will attach in Google Classroom. You've got to do it. There's no, you don't, other than turning in the notebook, the paper copies, you don't need them because you signed a paper when you signed up for remote that you could do this all on the internet, or else you're not allowed to do it. So make sure you get these done. I'm not trying to lecture you, be angry, but a lot of people just aren't doing this stuff. And, honestly, the people that are watching this video are probably the ones that are already doing it. So probably talking to myself, but that's okay. At least I'll have it on record that I mentioned it. So anyway, the chapter today the section I should say, won't take very long. I don't know why my voice cracked like I'm 12 years old there, but apologize. We're talking about the changes for women. And in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the idea that women not only were not suitable to have jobs, they should stay home, they should be obedient and subservient to men. Those are all things that are going away, thankfully. And I will say this: it is. Um, no country, America or anybody anywhere else, is perfect in any way. And the idea that you can talk, you're not allowed to talk about things we've done wrong, I think is silly to me. You learn from mistakes of the past. And so, ignoring the fact that we had hundreds of years of slavery, ignoring the fact that we threw Asian Americans in detention camps in World War II, ignoring the fact that even after slavery we prevented African Americans from voting, the KKK, um, is senseless to me. If you have something wrong and you really care about something, you try to correct that problem. You just don't close your eyes and say, no, 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 I'm ignoring that. Everything's great. And this is another one of those. It's embarrassing how long it took for women to get, and women still don't have equal, you can read studies all over the internet. They make 75 cents still for every dollar a man makes in executive jobs. Thankfully here, at school, we have union contract. And so all the teachers, whether they're men or women, make all the same amount of money depending on how long they've been here. And so, but there are, and we'll get to the 19th Amendment in a few minutes, but the 19th Amendment was passed in 1919. It took effect in 1920. Women could vote in a presidential election in America for the first time in 1920. That means there are women today alive that are over 100 years old, so old women, who when they were born, they couldn't vote, which is just astounding to me. And so the idea that we have, babies can't vote anyway, I know that, but you know what I'm trying to say. But the idea that a lot of people try to have is like, whoa, that's just so far in the past. Well, no, it's really not. In fact, today is Friday. On Wednesday, the last civil war, not World War II, not World War I, the last Civil War widow died. She was married to a man who fought in the Civil War, which ended in 1865. Now, this is going to get weird. She was 17 when she married him, and he was 93. So that's kind of weird. But still, the idea that you could just have these two lives back to back shows you that all these events that we've been talking about are not that long ago, and they still have an effect and an impact today. Technology improved things. There's fewer children are needed. Again, I have my two kids because I wanted to raise a family and I love them to death. A lot of people had kids back then because, like, hey, we need more farm workers, which is weird to think about. I'm not really here to cast judgment on those people. It is what it is. It was what it was. So women start to become educated. They start to have leisure time and free time. And so the idea of the new woman begins to take shape. And to women's credit, they expended a lot of their newfound time and energy and money. Whenever they got rights, they used their new standing in society to try to bring up others with them. And I think that's very admirable, because there's a lot of groups in America and around the world. Again, this is not just an American, who fight to get through a door and then close it and lock it behind them. And that's not, women in the, 19 teens and 1920s really did an admirable job of trying to ensure that, we read about in the book yesterday. Hopefully you did the reading. But one of the women's club's mottos was lifting as we climb. In other words, we're climbing up, but we're going to try to lift others with us behind us. And that's a very, in my opinion, admirable position to take. We talked about settlement houses and specifically the whole house already. This is just, these are just places they set up to help people get food that need it, get people on their feet, education, stuff like that. The 15th Amendment, like I said, gave freed slaves the right to vote, but not women. And so again, and women are over half the population. And so the idea that we are excluding them from the entire electoral process, again, I got on my soapbox a few minutes ago, but it's pretty wild to me. Thankfully, we've learned better. Not everybody. There's still people that, there's still sexists that exist, of course. But for by and large, most of the world has realized this is a mistake. So women wanted suffrage. Again, I'll point out, just like I did when we learned the Constitution last year, suffrage and suffering are not the same thing. Okay, women's suffrage means the right to vote. Women's suffrage means the women's right to vote. Women's suffering is what my wife agreed to when she married me. So, and so they felt that they should have every right any man has, which of course, most of us now take for granted. And it should be something to take for granted. It should be obvious to everybody, but it wasn't always. There were several people, including women themselves, who protested the idea of giving the right to vote. They thought that if women could vote and have jobs and stuff, that divorce rates would go up. And they were right. They did. Divorce rates did go up. But a lot of times, the idea that divorce rate going up is automatically bad is not necessarily true, because the fact of the matter is, throughout the 1800s, a lot of these women who were not getting divorced wasn't because of some idea of family values or whatever. It's because they were in abusive relationships that they really had no legal standing to get out of. And so, I mean, my parents are divorced. I'm sure a lot of my students have divorced parents also, of course, and probably some of you watching this video. And so it's not, again, I'm not putting a value on it, but for a lot of these women back in the 1800s, they were in physically abusive relationships. And so the idea that that's better than the divorce rate going up is not necessarily something that rings true to me. And so sometimes the idea of getting a divorce gets you out of some of the relationships that you shouldn't have been in. And so Wyoming was the first state to give women the right to vote. Alice Paul met with the president, Woodrow Wilson, the day before he was inaugurated in 1917. They did not win his support. They got arrested for sitting outside on their keisters on the sidewalk outside the White House. But by the end of 1917, the tide is starting to turn. People are starting to realize, hey, there's no reason that women should have the right to vote. They're getting a lot more support on their side. And so in 1918, the House of Representatives passes the amendment. In 1919, the Senate passes it, and it takes effect the beginning of the next year, which is 1920. And so the 1920 election is the first in which women could vote. As we'll talk about later, by the way, Warren G. Harding was elected in 1920. And for all the nice things I said about the idea of women really lifting others as they gain their own rights, that was a bad first choice. Warren G. Harding sucked. He was a very corrupt president and oversaw a very corrupt administration, which we'll get to anyway. And the men voted for Harding too. It wasn't women's fault, but I'm saying, they finally got the right to vote in 1920, and whoopsie poopsie, we didn't have a good one. So like I said a few minutes ago, they worked to improve other minority groups, immigrants, working class people. They also supported temperance crusade, the banning of alcohol, which was another misstep. That didn't work out well. It worked. They got alcohol prohibited. And now, again, this is not a value judgment that I'm passing on drinking. But outlawing alcohol was a very bad thing for America. It cost us not only billions of dollars in tax revenue, but also really gave rise to organized crime. The mafia really took off because of the idea of prohibition, and it had really no positive effects. Alcoholism did not go down when we banned alcohol, okay? Which we'll get to that later. But, a good way to get people to do things is tell them you can't do that, okay? And so when they banned alcohol, well, we'll get to that later. We'll talk more about prohibition later. Anyway, that's the end of today. Like I said, make sure you're watching the video. Make sure you answer the question. The question is, I don't know. Could just say hi to me. Just say hello. Hi, Mr. Bath. That's all you need to do. And fill out the Google form, and that'll count as your attendance. All right? Have a good Monday when you're watching this. I guess, again, like I said, I'm recording this ahead of time. So wash your hands, wear your masks, all that good stuff. I'm here all by myself today. There's nobody else in here. So I still have my mask when I walk around. But otherwise, stay safe, and I will see you later. Have a good day. Bye.